Hi, I'm Chayla Mahela and I'll be explaining the program Microwave, which allows the user to input the item count and then input the time and then calculates the recommended heating time. For this program, I have used a try block and a catch block. Within the try block, I used if-else statements where it checks if the user inputs an item count smaller than 0 or bigger than 3 and lets the user to input the time and checks if the time is smaller than 1 second. And after that, according to the item count inputted by the user, it calculates the recommended time according to these formulas given, and then writes the line recommended heating time is into the console. And if user inputs an invalid input, the catch block will get executed and will write this line to the console. Now we can check if this code is working perfectly and closely examine this code within the debugging tool. For this purpose, I have added breakpoints to this code, and these breakpoints will allow me to post the code at specific lines of code. Now we can start the debugging process by clicking debug and then start debugging. Now the debugging process has started. Now as you can see, there's locals and watch list and auto. And the local shows what local variables are in scope right now. And the watch allows us to add entries we want to keep a close eye on. We can add entries by simply selecting what we want to add to the uh, watch and then right clicking by selecting add watch. Now, the program has currently paused at this line where I have placed the first breakpoint. This line of code takes the input from the user for the item count, then converts it to an integer and then stores it in item count variable. Right now, the item count is set as 0 because I have not taken the input for the item count. Now, if we step into this line by clicking this arrow, then it asks how many items I'm going to hit. If I say 2, then the item count variable should be updated into 2. And as you can see, when I have my mouse, then it says item count 2. And within the locals, also the item count is updated to 2, and watch also the item count is updated to 2. Now we can move over to the next line of code, and now this will not get executed because the item count is not bigger than 3. And then we can go into this line of code, and then please enter the single item heating time in seconds should be written to the console, and then this line of code will convert time into an integer and then store time in the time variable. Right now the time is set as 0, and as you can see, now the console asks for the time. I can add 30 seconds as time. And because time is not less than 1 second, this line of code will not get executed. Because the item count I have entered is 2, this formula should get executed and give us the recommended heating time. And then this should be written into the console after calculating the recommended heating time according to this formula. And if we check the terminal, it should say the recommended heating time is 45 seconds. 45. And within the locals, the recommended heating time is also updated to 45, while time is updated to 30, and item count is updated to 2. This allows us to check how our variables are acting, and now the code works perfectly for an item count 2. This is how the debugging process works, and this is my explanation for the microwave program. Now I'll be explaining the program DoCasting, which will be initializing and declaring the sum and count variables, then calculate the integer average, and then calculate the double average. To check if these initializations and declarations and the calculations are happening perfectly, we can closely examine the code in debug mode. For this, I have already placed some breakpoints within the code where I want to post the code to check closely. Now I'll start the debugging. Now that the debugging process has started, the program will stop at this line where the sum is initialized to 0 because I have not yet stepped into that code. Now, when I step through that code, the sum is updated as 17 here, which is perfect. And then the integer count should be, count variable should be initialized into 5. And it is initialized into 5, as you can see in the watch and also in the locals. Now, the next breakpoint is double average calculation. Here, the sum is casted into a double, then divided by count, and we should get a double average variable updated into 3.4. And as you can see, after this process, the console should write the integer average 3 and 3.4. This shows that our process has gone perfectly, and the initializations and declarations and the calculations and the casting has happened perfectly. And we use the debug tool to closely examine the code. So that's all for this task, and that's all for my explanation. Thank you.